Hey everybody, this is Marxism Part 4, and I'm calling this the second lie. And the second lie is how Marxists have hid around us and in our society for about 70 years and continue to try to obfuscate who they are and what they're doing. The second lie is this: we don't exist. It has two variations. The first variation is simple: we don't exist. And the second variation is we're not Marxists, we're something else. So on the we don't exist example, after World War II, there was a whole bunch of communists and Marxists in this country, and when it came to light how evil communism was, and there was a huge public relations campaign against it, these people subsumed themselves as progressives into the left wing of our country. And they spent decades there promulgating their Marxist ideas, but claiming to be progressives this whole time. Now, as things are changing, and they believe that Marxism doesn't have the stigma on it that it used to and that it should have, the variation becomes, well, I'm not a Marxist, I'm a different kind of socialist. A democratic socialist, or I'm a social democrat, or I'm an anarcho-communist, or, you know, there's different types of socialism. You get that, right? Stupid phrases like that. And we, as a people, generally want to believe them because we want to believe in the good of our fellow man and of our countrymen, and we want to believe that our social contract is being honored. And that, I think, is the best test to determine if these people are Marxists or otherwise authoritarian, and that is to see if they are honoring our social contract. And our social contract consists of things like the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Do we fight for each other's rights even when we don't care about them? And there's many facets to our social contract. You know, it's inculcated in phrases like, I don't agree with what you say, but I would fight to the death for your right to say it. Or with things like, we have one person, one vote, we are a democracy, we do things democratically. And I think if you look at ideologues from both sides, like you look at the Westboro Baptist Church on the right, where they picket dead soldiers' funerals and scream at the family members of these soldiers that their family member died because he was gay or something vile like that. And I think if you look at the left, where they are not honoring our democratic process, where they don't care about one person, one vote, even though they scream about it all the time, you may come to agree with my opinion. And my opinion is this: that these ideologues are social and intellectual retards. And by that, I don't mean that they're physically infirm, but what I mean is that they have so internalized their ideology, they've wrapped so many lies around it, and they've wrapped so many omissions of truth in an effort to armor themselves against reality, that they are incapable of honoring our social contract. They are incapable of participating in it and basically keeping their word to the rest of us. So examples of this include, in Bernie's campaign, he had multiple people who were talking about killing landlords or putting people up against the wall or burning cities down if he didn't get the nomination, or if they couldn't convince people to think the way they wanted them to. Just think about that for a minute, right? Like, how is that honoring our social contract? That's not honoring our social contract if you have a right to say what you want. And then after Bernie didn't get the nomination, they did burn cities down. They are burning cities down as we speak. And so they're not honoring our democratic process, right? Like, they couldn't even get one party in our country to agree to nominate this man. And they so refuse to accept the reality that the majority of the country doesn't want what they want, that they are incapable of honoring our democratic process. They lost. They lost the vote. They had the best chance possible, and they lost the vote, and they simply refused to accept that. And their response now is violence and arson and all this other kind of stuff. So we need to look for that. And I think if you spend the time to really pay attention to what these people are doing, right? 8-9 months ago, they were saying there's no place for violence in our society. Then their people started committing violence, and they've spent the last 3 months downplaying it in media and in social media. And now they're trying to blame the violence on somebody else, and I believe the next iteration of this will be them justifying the violence that they are, or their people are committing. And that's just like one thread of this. That's just one thread of it. But overall, if you look at that, their inability to respect an election that they lost, their inability to let people speak their minds without sometimes violent reprisals, and their inability to honor even their own former predispositions against violence, you have a pretty good indication that these people are incapable of honoring what it is that makes us American: our shared values, our shared rights, our social contract.